Welcome to It's Your Date with Destiny with Apostle Vivian and Pastor Jemma Duncan of Divine Destiny Worship Center in Diego Martin. For the next 30 minutes, join us as we take you on a journey of maximizing your potential and realizing your goals through Jesus Christ.
Why is it when you need a miracle, it doesn't happen, but when you least expect it, it happens?
You are married, you have challenges in your relationship, but your spouse is unwilling to accede to any counseling. Is divorce an option?
How does a parent handle a promiscuous child?
What are considered the do's and don'ts of a born-again couple who is not yet married?
There are always more questions than answers. So here is Apostle Jemma.
A very good morning to you. Welcome to Ask Pastor Jemma. I thank you for taking the time to view the program, and I hope that you've been with me for some time. If not, if you're a first-time viewer, my name is Jemma Duncan. I'm married to Apostle Vivian Duncan, and together we pastor Divine Destiny Worship Center. Our headquarters is in Diego Martin, but we have branches in Chaguanas, Sangre Grande, in Faizabad, one in Tobago, and we have a branch in Antigua. This morning, I have a very interesting topic. Where did the practice of dedicating babies come from? As you know, in full gospel churches, we say we dedicate the baby, and then we use another term that we offer up the babies. And so this topic should be interesting. But before we go there, let me just tell you about our upcoming events. We have some really interesting things coming up that we want you to be a part of. For the new year, we have the Cracked Door Conference. We always open with the Cracked Door Conference with our eldest son, Donnell, and his wife, Angel. It will run from the 3rd of January to the 5th of January. The evening of the 5th, we have Book Bag Blessing. I know you look forward to our Book Bag Blessing, but the Book Bag Blessing will be at 5 p.m. And then we finish off Cracked Door Conference at 7 p.m. One other thing coming up big, the January 14th to 20th, we have School of Leadership. I know most of you are accustomed to us having School of the Prophets. This is one of the modules that Apostle Vivian does, a School of Leadership where he trains leaders, and this training is secular as well as church, and so it will be interesting for you to be a part of it. All of us are leaders in potential. This particular module will be called Do You Know Your Assignment, which is absolutely important. Call our numbers, you'll see it scrolling across, 633-3780, and you will get further information as to what's happening if you missed something. So we go back to the topic, where did the practice of dedicating babies come from? I'm going to give you 2 examples, one from the Old Testament and one from the New Testament, to show you that the practice started in the Old Testament, but didn't stay there. Because if you look, for example, the example I have in the Old Testament was the offering up of Samuel. And then in the New Testament, the offering of Jesus Christ. And so you realize that if we follow in the Jesus model, then we have to practice what he did. In 1 Samuel, Hannah, there's the story of Hannah. Her husband is Elkanah. And the Bible says that Hannah was barren. She couldn't have babies. And it was something that bothered her as it would bother any other woman, because all of us, when we get married, one of the things that we look forward to is to have children. And Hannah went before God, petitioned God, and God gave her a miracle. The Bible is full of examples of women who started off not being able to have children, and God blessed their womb. So that miracle is still available for us today. I know of women who have 10 years, 15 years, didn't have children, and I mean, when they least expect it, God blessed them and smiled on them, that couple, and gave them a child. Some people have more than one. You know, after not having babies for so long, they have a problem of now what to do because they keep coming fast and furious. So we give God praise that if you're out there, you can still believe for a miracle. We pray and believe it's up to God to decide what He'll do when you ask Him. However, God gave her a miracle, and in 1 Samuel chapter 1, down to verse 24, talking about Samuel, and when she had weaned him, she took him up with her with 3 bullocks and 1 ephah of flour and a bottle of wine, and brought him unto the house of the Lord in Shiloh, and the child was young. And they slew a bullock and brought the child to Eli. Eli was the priest. And she said, O my Lord, as I so liveth, my Lord, I am the woman that stood by thee here praying unto the Lord. For this child I prayed, and the Lord had given me my petition which I asked him. Therefore also I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he liveth, he shall be lent to the Lord. And he worshipped the Lord there. And Hannah took Samuel and offered Samuel up. Now, this was an unusual case because she left the child there, you know. Usually we don't really leave the baby for the pastor to take care of. But she literally gave back Samuel to God. And that's what the whole practice of dedicating the baby or offering up the baby. You're literally saying, God, all life comes from you. You gave us this child, and we're giving you back the child. Now, Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5 substantiates the fact that all children come from God, because God is talking to Jeremiah in verse 4 of Jeremiah 1. And it says, Then the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. So here, God is talking to Jeremiah and said, before I formed you in the womb, God didn't say before your mother had you in the womb. He didn't, he claimed that it's he who formed Jeremiah in the womb. And before he came out of the womb, he sanctified him. So this verse alone, which is one of my favorite verses, says to us that all children come from God. And so what do we do? What should we do as parents? We go back to God and say, I'm giving this child back to you. Why would I give back my child to God? Because God says in His word, I know the end from the beginning. And every single person that comes on the earth, God has a plan for that person's life. It's as if there's a script written concerning that person's life. Who has the script? God does. So He knows exactly where that child will go, what that child will do, what that child will become. He told Jeremiah, I sanctified you to be a prophet. So, even before you were conceived, I already knew that you were going to be a prophet. It was my plan, for you to be a prophet. So it means then that when we go back after we've had this baby and offer that child to God, what are we saying? You know what? You know the plan for this child's life. I'm giving back this child to you. I want you to map a course for this child. I want you to help me as a parent or parents to know where you want this child to go. And many times God is going to give us the wisdom as to how to deal with our children, because those of us who have more than one child in the home, you realize that each child is unique, each child is different. And God has a plan for each child. And the parent must also know how to treat with each child, how to deal with these children. One child behaves in a particular way, and we presume that the next child, same parents, same mother, father, same home, same environment, same upbringing, and yet that child behaves very differently. God will now give us the wisdom as to how to treat with that child. So all children belong to God, and so we're giving them back to God. Then the next thing is, as a parent, offering up that child expresses my gratitude for the life that God has given to me in that child, and the privilege that I enjoy of mothering that child. Now, I looked upon my 3 children as privileges. Each one God gave me, it was a blessing to me. And I felt that I had to be forever thankful to God for their lives. And so I express it all the time to them, to God. I give them praise. Sometimes just recently, I passed a photo of them and I stopped and I started to thank God for their lives. His keeping power and all of that. And so when we offer up our babies to God, we are saying, that child came from you, I'm giving back that child to you. And then I'm saying, Lord, I thank you for the life that you've given to me as a privilege. You are partnering with me, or I am partnering with you in bringing up this life and fulfilling your plan for the child's life. My husband has a quote that he says, if you ever listen to him, at the end of every radio program, at the end of every TV program, he would say, you began life as a winner. Don't live it as a victim or die as a loser. You are God's idea, because when God made you, he had destiny on his mind. So that says to me, we have to give back that child to God, give back these children to God, because every child is a God idea. Let's go now to Luke chapter 2 and look at Jesus, the example of Jesus. As you know, Jesus is God, but miraculously, God allowed him to come to earth in flesh and become a man like us, and demonstrated how God wanted men, human beings, to relate to him. Before I go to Luke, let me just jump to John. That helps us understand that. John chapter 1 says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. And we jump down a little bit to verse 10. Verse 9 says, that was the true light, which lighted every man that cometh into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even unto them that believe on his name. Which was born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the Word was made flesh, and dwelt among us. And we beheld the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. And in John chapter 1 there, it tells us who Jesus was, that he came in the flesh. And I thought that maybe somebody might be viewing and they didn't quite know where that came from, that I probably should go back there. But let's go back to Luke. In Luke, we are looking at chapter 2, and Jesus is born, and his mother is now going with this child to be offered up in the temple. Chapter 2 of Luke says, verse 21 says, and when 8 days were accomplished for the circumcision of the child, his name was called Jesus, which was so named of the angel before he was conceived in the womb. And when the days of her purification according to the law of Moses were accomplished, they brought him to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord. And verse 23 says, as it is written in the law of the Lord, every male that openeth the womb shall be called holy unto the Lord. That's something in the Bible that talks about firstborn son as a special child. But here we are, Mary is bringing back Jesus to the temple at a particular time to dedicate him, to offer him up to the Lord. In that ceremony, it was a circumcision because it was a Jewish ceremony, and it was also a naming ceremony. So what they do is, that is the time when they establish the name of the child during that whole offering up exercise. Today we still practice dedication of babies in our churches. And as I said earlier, we sometimes refer to the exercise as offering up of the baby. It signifies that the parents are committing and entrusting the child to God's sovereign care. It is not merely inducting the child in the church's rule book, because, well, for us, in most full gospel churches, the child is not really considered a member of the church when the child is offered up or dedicated, which is something that other organizations do, they are counted as part of the membership. That child must reach a stage where you understand what you're doing, and then is where that child could accept Jesus Christ as the Lord and Savior, and then that child could be baptized. Some churches traditionally will do accept a child into membership at 12. We'd go a little lower as long as the child understands. Children are very smart today. They're much brighter than we were. They articulate, they grasp stuff, and they could explain everything to you very readily. And so when a child could explain that whole experience, that's their choice to do it, we baptize the child. And so at that point, and baptism here, we're talking about immersing the child in water. We baptize in the sea. You can baptize, it doesn't have to be the sea, it could be a river. Some people have the baptismal pool in the church, and wherever, but the person, the entire body must be under the water and come back up. So you dip the entire body and come back up. At that point, then the child is considered like a member of the church as such. So our dedication is just an offering up of that baby to God. That's what it means. That was a very interesting question, and maybe some of you might have been enlightened as to the practices in the scripture. We do a whole lot of things, and many times we are not quite sure as to where I could find it. So I thought I would help you with that. God bless you. As you continue to go after the truth about God.
I am Pastor Donald Duncan.
And I'm Pastor Angel.
And we are excited to be coming down to Trinidad and Tobago for the Cracked Door Conference 2018. How do you feel about that?
It's going to be spectacular. We hope that you will come on out and listen to the content that we're going to be sharing at each session. You don't want to miss it. We're going to be talking about components from Pastor Donnell's book, and we're also going to be talking about ways that you can grow and understand your finances, and also what the Lord has planned for you to prosper.
So January 3rd, January 4th, January 5th, 7 p.m. nightly at Divine Destiny Worship Center off Sardonyx Drive, opposite Sardonyx Drive in Diego Martin. We will be there. We will be excited. The Lord has a word for you. The Lord is going to do amazing things, and we're excited. On that Friday, January 5th, there's going to be an early session at 5 for the young people, for the students, for anybody who's in school doing any kind of education. We used to call it the Book Back Blessing. There's a new name now. Come on out, bring your books.
Pastor Angel. I'm here with Pastor Donnell Duncan, and we are going to talk to him a little bit about the newest book called The Fish with the Coin in Its Mouth. We're hoping that we can learn a little bit more insight concerning the book, as it's going to be released and available to you very soon. Hello, Pastor Donnell.
Hi, Pastor Angel. How are you?
Wonderful. Well, we have a couple of questions that we want to just ask you concerning the book, because we believe the people that are going to read it, they're interested in knowing a little bit about the book as a preview so that they'll know what they can expect when they sit down to enjoy what you have put together. So the first question is, what inspired you to write your latest book, The Fish with the Coin in Its Mouth?
Well, there were many inspirations, but I'm going to give you like three big picture things. Number one, growing up in church, I have read and have heard many good messages on the spiritual dimension of financial prosperity, financial increase, etc. And then at the same time, I've also read many secular academic books on financial excellence and investing and things along those lines. And I felt like we needed to bridge the two worlds together. The spiritual side, the natural side into one. So that was one thing. Number two, I am very sensitive to what I see going on in society. And I see certain demographics at the bottom consistently, and I see certain demographics at the top consistently. So it made me curious to begin to study what's going on inside of that and why and what can we do about it. And then number three, my father introduced the term the fish with the gold in its mouth many years ago, and I never forgot it. And the time came for me to write a book about it. So I told him I was going to write a book about it, and I asked him to explain to me, what does this really mean? What is the fish with the gold in its mouth? And he explained to me the concept behind it, etc. And I was like, okay, I got this. And there you have it, the book, The Fish with the Coin in Its Mouth, Embracing God's Financial Game Plan.
Excellent, excellent. How about this? Who is this book primarily written for, and what should the reader expect to glean after reading its content?
Well, definitely the Christian community, and a big focus on young professionals, people who are now really getting into the financial world, getting into that job, getting out of school into that place where they're starting to collect checks and they need to start making good decisions, because at this point in time, when you're now getting into this economic system, you want to start off right and you want to understand it.
Yeah, and it's very important because, there's not a lot of guidance out there for young professionals when they first get their first check, as you say. So this is definitely a helpful resource.
And for everybody else who may be a little further along in the process, the book really does dig into each stage of what we would coin climbing the economic ladder, from entry level to middle management, to upper management, to getting to the point of entrepreneurship, to investing. So wherever you are on that scale.
Well, we've come to almost the end of a year. 2017 is far gone. And we should be in thankful mode. The fact that you are viewing me means that you survived 2017. I know it might have been challenging, and some of you look back with bittersweet memories, some good, some bad, and that's life. Life is a mix of some good, some bad. Sometimes we have a lot of good, with a little sprinkling of what we consider bad, and then for some people, wow, it's a lot of negatives, which is a little sprinkling of good to keep your head above the water. But we thank God. 2018 is a promise of something great. Every time we come to a juncture like this, our attitude should be that it's going to be better. You know, I'm looking forward to a much better year. And with you giving your life to God, you know, let Him take over your circumstances. Sometimes we struggle too much. I was talking to somebody recently, and I'm listening to her, and her head is busy. It's like a train station. And I said to her, you just need to float. Floating, I don't float. I'm not comfortable floating. I'm not lying down on that water. So in a short while, my foot had to be on the ground. I have to touch the sand. And it means, you know, I struggle to just give up everything. And floating gives the idea that you're not in control. You just abandon yourself, leave your body, and let the water takes it where it goes. Well, you know, let me suggest that 2018, up from now on, we start to float and let God take us wherever He wants to take us, and stop fussing, because we fuss about things that we can't change. And if I can't change it, why am I fussing? You know, distressing is very negative in terms of the damage it does to my body, and the situation is not changing. So then let's trust God. In His prophecy that the Lord has given us for this season, the Lord said to us, in quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. And I leave that with you this morning. I don't want you to ever forget that with God, everything is possible. God bless you real good.